Trump is standing by his call for a ban on Muslims entering the U.S. He made that statement in writing first, and he announced it before a campaign rally in South Carolina. That was yesterday, and it has ignited a firestorm of criticism. Take a listen to what he told his crowd of supporters.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. We have no choice. We have no choice. It's going to get worse and worse. You're going to have more World Trade Centers. It's going to get worse and worse, folks.
Today in the 4x4, we're taking 4 minutes during the 4 to examine Trump's rhetoric, the reaction from fellow political leaders, and the impact this kind of dialogue is having on Muslims in our community. We're joined by political analyst Brian Sobel and Zara Ballou, the executive director of the Bay Area chapter of CARE. That's the Council on American Islamic Relations. Zara, first of all, what's your reaction to what Trump said?
Horrified. It's been nonstop, and Donald Trump seems to find a way to make a ridiculous, unconstitutional, un-American statement every time there's a lull in the media for even just a minute.
Well, Brian, to you now, most Republicans, they are condemning what Trump had to say. Let's listen to the House Speaker, and then I'll get your response on the other end.
What was proposed yesterday is not what this party stands for, and more importantly, it's not what this country stands for. Not only are there many Muslims serving in our armed forces, dying for this country, there are Muslims serving right here in the House, working every day to uphold and to defend the Constitution. Some of our best and biggest allies in this struggle and fight against radical Islamic terror are Muslims.
Brian, this expected from Paul Ryan?
Yes, I think everybody would agree Trump's comments were reprehensible. He does, of course, tap into this 10–20% of people who are very, very upset with what's going on around the world. But it's, once again, terribly misdirected.
And Zara, we heard people cheering when Trump made that announcement. What kind of reaction are you getting out on the streets as a Muslim American, people who are dressed the way you are? Are you worried about people lashing out?
Absolutely. We've been hearing a lot from American Muslims who are afraid of sending their children to school and who are afraid of going to work, really because comments like the ones that Donald Trump are making make it more socially acceptable to be anti-Muslim, to call care offices across the country with hate calls and death threats, to attack mosques. We've seen an unprecedented rise in attacks on Muslim individuals and institutions, and so the fears are not entirely baseless.
And are you getting those calls here in the Bay Area at your offices?
We are. We've received nearly a dozen in just about the past week.
Well, and some are also questioning the reality. How realistic is this proposal to actually stop Muslims from being able to enter into our country? Let's listen to what the White House had to say today.
Each of the Republican candidates has already taken an oath pledging to support Donald Trump for President of the United States if he wins the nomination. But the fact is, the first thing a president does when he or she takes the oath of office is to swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the fact is that what Donald Trump said yesterday disqualifies him from serving as president.
Well, Brian, should this disqualify Donald Trump? And you got to remember, he has supporters, and he's still topping most, if not all, of the polls.
Well, again, my feeling is that Donald Trump doesn't emerge at the end of the day. What he's proposing is not American. It is against everything we believe in the United States of America. It is the great melting pot on the face of the earth and always has been. And so whatever he's talking about with respect to Muslims not being able to be brought into the United States is unconstitutional, I believe, and most scholars believe that, and so it's not going to happen. But he, again, is fueling his base, and again, eventually, I think he burns out.
Well, his base does seem to feel like, for some reason, Muslims, all Muslims, are anti-American, Muslims who were born and raised here in the United States. But the White House is saying the opposite. Let's hear what they said about that.
The United States government and our national security officials are going to be most effective if they're able to work in partnership with leaders of the Muslim American community to prevent those who are most vulnerable to this radical ISIL ideology from being incited and inspired to carry out an act of violence. So, and rhetoric like the offensive bluster that we hear from Mr. Trump makes it much harder to build and solidify that relationship.
Zara, talk about the relationship that Muslims and CARE in particular has with government officials. Do you share information with officials if you suspect that there could be radicalized people who are attending mosques and so on?
I think we get into this other place around the conversation of countering violent extremism. The Muslim community has consistently said that we oppose, that our religion opposes and prohibits violence against innocent people. And time and again, if and when a Muslim is confronted by someone who is interested in engaging in violence, there's a track record of stopping it, of going to law enforcement, of engaging with elected officials, of doing what we can to protect our communities. And I don't just mean the Muslim community, I mean Santa Clara, San Jose, California, the United States. Of course, it's important also that the feds do not look at the Muslim community as suspect or having a unique burden. There have been hundreds of mass shootings in this country, and only a small handful were committed by Muslims. And so the issue of violence against innocent people, be it at the workplace, at movie theaters, at Planned Parenthood, is not a problem that is unique to any single ethnic or religious community.
And Brian, taking it back to the race for the White House, Republican counterparts, as we've heard, they've condemned Donald Trump for his comments, but some of these are the same people who have pledged to vote for the Republican nominee. So let's just say if we're going by these polls, Donald Trump is the nominee. What happens then? Are they going to vote him into the office?
Well, first of all, I think the polling is starting to see some changes. We're looking at the Iowa poll as an example, polls in Iowa showing that already Donald Trump is seeing some slippage. We're getting to serious time now. February is when you have the caucuses, a couple of primaries, and that sort of thing. And I think people in those states are going to get very serious about who the candidate is going to be. And quite frankly, as this rhetoric machine carries forth, I think people will distance themselves from Trump more and more. And frankly, just as Trump has said, I still hold out the opportunity, if I want, to be an independent candidate. I would say that the other candidates in the race on the Republican side can say at any point, this guy has gone over the line, which I think he has, and I can no longer pledge to support him if he's the nominee. And again, I don't think he's the nominee.
Brian Sobel, Zara Ballou, thank you both for coming in and talking about this subject. And we should mention, we just learned a short time ago that Donald Trump does plan to go to Jordan before the end of the year and meet with Muslims there who are supporters of the U.S. effort against ISIS and terrorists around the world. So it'll be interesting to see if his thoughts maybe change after he actually meets with Muslims who are working with the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you.